All right, we are live here. We have the college football playoff rankings coming out in moments, 39 seconds to be exact.
And in a week where I didn't think that we would have much shakeup last week, obviously you expect to see Oklahoma move up ahead of Alabama,
Yep.
um, and the SEC looks closer to getting those 5 teams in than we thought. And I really thought that Oklahoma and Texas, would falter out and would end their seasons. But uh, Oklahoma, one team prospered and one team fell. And that's kind of the nature of college football.
The Alabama losing was great for the SEC and terrible for I can't even say terrible for Alabama. I mean it's not an advantageous position because now everything lies in Jordan Hare here in less than 2 weeks and let me tell you that game is going to take years off of my life.
Oh man, that's I'm a game time decision on whether or not I'm going to decide to make the trip down there because the last time I was down there, I was sitting in the Auburn section by myself, and by the grace of God, I managed to get out of there unscathed. And I think that I used a lot of my luck up on that one play. So I don't know if I have back to back years of getting that lucky.
And this is the year where we truly need all of the luck that we can muster up as Alabama fans.
Uh, at this point, we're riding a fine line here. I would have liked for us to just go ahead and clinch the SEC championship, but you know what? What can you say? It always comes down to Jordan Hare.
It always comes down to the plains. I feel like we find ourselves in this situation so many times. We've seen it so many times in the past, and now, here we are again. It's truly it's something to be back in this predicament again.
Another team I'm really interested to see where they have them this week is Miami, because there's been a lot of talk about Notre Dame's resume and a
Hmm.
lot of talk about head to head. And when you look at the head to head, Miami has that head to head over Notre Dame, and I believe they were about six spots behind, maybe 8 spots behind last week. I refuse to say 6 or 7 spots behind, but they were a good margin behind. So it seems that the College Football Playoff Committee is just trying to creep them up there. But here we go.
We got the first rankings out. We've got all right. Tulane is back in. What the first five are new.
Yes,
25 Arizona State, Tulane, Houston, Missouri, Illinois in that order. Missouri with a profound win over Mississippi State.
really. And that was a game last week that I really thought that Mississippi State was going to go in there and pull it off. But
Holy shit! They dropped Texas 7 spots after the Georgia loss.
and I think that's mainly just a kind of like that's the borderline of you're not getting in the playoffs. I think 17 is where they're going to put them. So I don't think they move up much after that. They can move up to maybe 14, I think.
Well, the committee absolutely tells you what they think when they put you in spots. Like they're telling a story with these rankings
Absolutely.
at times. And
Michigan's an interesting case, though. Michigan's a really interesting case. They got a couple big games coming up. They can move up a little bit. They're kind of the sleeper down there.
that let me tell you that Ohio State game is. I mean, not 9-2 going into that game. That Ohio State game could be fascinating.
The lights are turning off on me here.
All right, we got USC at 15 going into this massive matchup with Oregon that we're
Wow,
previewing weekends.
that's going to be an incredible game. I'm super excited for it.
We officially have a marquee matchup between those two. Like I was expecting it to be this high profile, but there are.
How
Okay, Vanderbilt stays at 14.
how about the Pac? How about the Pac-12 getting some representation this week in the Big Ten?
I love it. I love this is a true Pac-12 game. I will always view that as a Pac-12 game.
Me too. Vandy at 14. That game in Knoxville getting bigger.
All
There
right,
we are, and that's
Miami 13.
and that sets them up to, just kind of sneak in there as a two-loss team. They're kind of in that same scenario that Alabama was in last year.
Yeah, and it's crazy because once again, just like 2017, it's going to come down to Pitt,
Who is just sitting right behind him, and Pitt has a little bit more of a chance, I think, of controlling their own destiny. But Miami with a win over Pitt could.
they're the committee could get them in. Okay, Utah, who's been just kind of hanging around there.
Yeah,
Utah's that team that like they just haven't vanished. They haven't gone away.
this is a team I absolutely love. I mentioned them at the beginning of the year: Devin Dampier, Ryan Davis,
Yeah,
the two transfers from the same school. I love it, man.
they're. I'm still getting my trust in with Dampier. Like I think Utah and BYU, the question marks are both have to do with the quarterback position. But man, both
Yeah.
teams are physical up front. They dropped Alabama to
And,
10.
and what about the Holy War, man? The Holy War coming in big here. Alabama at 10, it makes sense, but Alabama still controls their own destiny. And as long as you get into that SEC championship game, you will be in the college football playoff.
Yeah, that it's and
At least you
I
should
don't.
be, because if not, championship weekend's gone.
Oh yeah, and I would just like I would decline going next year if I went played and lost and get in. I would just say to hell with that. I'm not going in again. Okay. I personally I don't agree with putting Notre Dame above Alabama.
I'm with you there as well. It doesn't make, but it makes no sense to me, man. How big of a win is Pitt? Do you consider the Pitt win that much bigger than? I mean, we'll see with common opponents. Most likely, if Alabama goes, they'll play A&M. So we'll see.
well, and I think that's a real recency bias thing having Notre Dame at number 9 because they won Saturday. Alabama didn't, but Alabama has more quality wins than Notre Dame. So, all right,
Oh, by a large margin.
Oklahoma at 8, they move up 3 spots.
They move up 3 spots, and you could argue that they should move up more.
I
I
can
mean, their losses aren't bad. Their 2 losses aren't bad, and well, you can argue one of them was because Mateer wasn't completely healthy. And I'll tell
yeah.
you what, that's one of the best defensive lines in the country, if not the best. So I could have seen them a little bit higher, honestly, even above maybe Ole Miss or Texas. I guess the head-to-head really plays a part here, though.
I
So
mean, and they have a head-to-head with who I think could end up being a top 5 team. All right, Oregon, they're still a little coy with Oregon, or
yeah,
they're still a little gun shy with Oregon. So it's
we'll
I'm
find out what Oregon's made of this week.
yeah, no, we truly are because they've
I don't think I'm not buying into them at all, and I don't know. I just haven't bought into them, and I'm sorry, I just don't see Oregon as a better team than Oklahoma, but I know they have 1 loss. So
I personally don't either. Like a neutral site, I would take Oklahoma. Not through the hypothetical thing, but I would. Okay, we got Ole Miss at number 6, so
yeah,
both teams move up 1, which is a result of Alabama dropping.
yes.
Heck is a top 5 now.
Ole Miss, that's crazy, but all right.
I would 100% put Ole Miss above Texas Tech.
I'm with you there, but how often has the college football playoff committee been on Twitter? That's the real question.
They they've always hated Ole Miss.
Yeah,
I
and
don't know.
Ole Miss does have some uncertainties going around with the Lane Kiffin thing. But I wouldn't. That doesn't take away from the team that they have.
What they've done. I mean, they beat Oklahoma. We didn't.
Yeah, yeah. Oklahoma. That's kind of where I thought Ole Miss and Oklahoma might be 1 spot apart. But Georgia, man,
All
Georgia,
right.
rightfully so.
Like fair and square, I have no problem with them being number 4. But to me, they're number 2 in the country.
Interesting. So you're high. They're getting hot at the right time.
It's all about timing. I'm not feeling that way about Alabama, and I'm feeling that way about Georgia. Is that they're evolving every week. And then the top 3 is exactly how we would expect. I had Indiana and A&M flip flop last week, but after what we witnessed in College Station, this past weekend, I rightfully put Indiana above.
As an Alabama fan, I'm looking at that. Oregon on the road would be a problem, but we've played in just as tough of environments. And then Indiana, Signetti, is DeBoer an evil genius here? They have Miami as the highest ranked ACC team. I think that's crucial to note. Um, and and once again, Ole Miss and A&M just seem like they're on a collision path. Now, let me ask you this: A&M goes undefeated and wins the SEC championship. Where would you put A&M? Because you know that Ohio State and Indiana are going to be playing each other most likely. It's the most likely scenario. Would you put A&M at 1 or would you put them at 2?
It's hard because you've had Ohio State at 1 all year round.
And then you've had Indiana at 2, so you think that A&M's maybe capped at number 2.
I think it comes down to Ohio State and Michigan.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it comes down to that game, because if that's one where Ohio State's down 17-3 at one point and they manage to pull off, but it's not the greatest looking thing. I mean, that's really the only other time they've been challenged this year outside of Texas and Illinois, kind of.
Let me ask you this scenario, because in these rankings, Alabama is behind Notre Dame. You would assume Notre Dame would win out. What happens if, say, BYU or Utah beats Texas Tech and Alabama loses in the SEC championship? Does Alabama get left out?
It's an interesting conundrum, because it presents the exact same scenario that we saw last.
And maybe if Alabama does clinch the SEC championship, maybe you see them move ahead of Notre Dame, win at Auburn, maybe pushes them ahead of Notre Dame. But this is kind of where you would want Auburn to be a 7-win team if you're an Alabama fan.
Yeah, the fact that Auburn has lost as many games, I mean, Saturday was a must-win game for Alabama, because this scenario in Auburn is as absolute terror.
And I also don't think that Texas Tech. So I mean, I don't think that Texas Tech would lose that Big 12 championship, but you never want to put anything on the shoulders of the last week of the season, and so it's for Alabama. It's the same thing. Just keep winning. You control your own destiny, but that Big 12 championship gets scary just like the ACC championship did last year. But once again, if you leave Alabama out, if they lose the SEC championship, there will not be another SEC championship.
Yeah, and so that goes for a couple teams inside the SEC too. I mean, if you're in that spot and you play that game and you lose and get left out, I mean, whether it's them, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, that leads to a major conversation about, do we continue to play in these things or not, and that it could very well eat away at the legitimacy of it. There's not, now looking in the top, the top 6, especially their remaining games, I think we're going to see more movement, because there's just a couple of terrifying games to me towards the end of the season here. Georgia going to Georgia Tech is one of them, but I think Georgia's rolling, so I think they'll take care of business. But I mean,
Ole Miss to Mississippi State.
That one's in Starkville.
Yeah.
And the one nobody's talking about, Texas Tech going to Morgantown.
My Mountaineers, man, and you know what those Mountaineers always do? They always either ruin somebody's season or get their season ruined late in the year. So, yeah, it's crazy. But I just can't see. And it's not like Oklahoma's scot free yet, but they're most likely going to take care of business, and so I think that there's about, and Oregon. We mentioned Oregon earlier. They're not out of the woods yet.
No.
And so with 2 weeks left in the season, it's going to be crazy. Notre Dame, I'm really bothered by the Notre Dame ranking. I guess you just can't really penalize them for winning, but it seems that it seems that you just penalized Alabama a lot more than I would for losing to who you now have as the number 8 team in the country, and really in a kind of a fluky game.
I mean the one thing that I'll argue against Alabama is that they lost on Saturday, and I'm saying this as a fan here.
Yeah,
And it the last 2 games before that didn't look good either.
yeah,
They
right,
they
right.
were
So
wins, but they didn't look good. But you also when you to support Alabama on the flip side of the coin, I also argue the fact that they went through an absolute gauntlet in October that Notre Dame really hasn't had to face this year. And so I just think that in the future, if we want to weigh Notre Dame in the same conversations as we do these Alabamas, these Ohio States, these Michigans, these Georgias, if we want to use the same criteria on them
yeah,
and not penalize them like we do a G5 team, then something has to be done with how they organize their schedule because it's becoming bullshit. And I say that with nothing but respect for Notre Dame because I believe this team is equipped to go toe to toe with a lot of those teams that you're seeing in the top 10. But
I agree with you, but
as far as the path to getting there, I mean, when you're looking at Boston College and Navy and Pitt is your hardest game remaining, I mean, and then you're putting that side to side with Alabama, who's playing, Oklahoma and having to go to the Plains to play Auburn, and you'll hear all the casuals say, "Oh, well, Auburn's lost a lot of games." Doesn't matter. It's a very talented team, and it's one of the hardest places to play in college football. A lot harder than anything Heinz Field has to offer. So,
yeah, yeah, a team that shares a stadium with an NFL team, like it's. I gotta say this too, and a team that is really it's an NFL town. It's not a college football town to begin with. But you wanna make the playoffs, go get it done. That's all you got to say. Go. We can speculate. We can speculate all we want. If you win your last 3 games, you're going to the college football playoffs. You've used all of your bullets you can possibly use. You've played Russian roulette. You've lost week 1 to FSU, and now you've lost week 10 to Oklahoma. You know what that tells the college football playoff committee is that maybe you're not. Maybe you're not meant to be in this college football playoff because how can we trust you to go win 4 games against top 10 teams? And now the devil's advocate there is, well, we've done that. We've beaten 4 ranked teams in a row. But I just with it's Notre Dame. Notre Dame is the only team I have a problem with. Obviously, everything else is set the standard. You kind of figured that was all going to happen, but it's really concerning for as an Alabama fan, personally, to see us in a similar scenario as last year, where because BYU and Texas Tech, or BYU and Utah, each have chances to move up, and they each have chances to win their conference championship. And clearly, you've seen they're not going to drop Texas Tech from 5 to out of the playoffs with 1 loss. So where
no.
does that leave Alabama? It leaves them as the 1 spot out, and it'd be a very disappointing way to end, really what has been a resurgent season for the Tide. But it's a lot of football left to be played and a lot of
Yeah.
results to be played out. But yeah, that's just the only thing I really have any type of issue with.
I mean, hey, I really feel like if Alabama takes care of business and the Plains, like I said, there's some weird, wonky matchups that weekend. So I expect this conversation the Tuesday after Thanksgiving weekends. I expect there to be just as much shakeup. I think next week will be very anticlimactic. I don't expect there to be much of a shakeup unless USC does something, which I know that you're thinking about predicting that. Um,
I did it against Notre Dame though. Yeah, but I like USC.
I I've liked them. They've really there's a couple Big Ten teams that are just kind of lingering right now.
And real quickly too, I think that this college football playoff ranking is pretty damning for Vanderbilt. Um,
Yeah.
I just don't see a way for them to move into. the top 12 here, top 10 really, because you would expect that the ACC champion will take their spot, and they're probably most likely ranked behind them right now. But yeah, Vanderbilt, I don't see a lot of good things happening for them. They didn't win the right games.
Well, and also, I don't think the losing is over for them either. So I don't think it's going to be even all that controversial at the end, because even though Tennessee is where they're at, I mean they've dropped an unfortunate amount of games. They've dropped more games than they should have for who they are. And man, if that is one game to think about right now, is if a few things went differently in the game of the year this year, Georgia and Tennessee, week 3, the conversations we'd be having right now would be fascinating, because we'd have a 2-loss Georgia and a 2-loss Tennessee, who I think both would have some leverage right now. So that's one of those games that we're going to go back and look at one point and say, wow, if that thing stayed the way it was rolling, how that would have affected everything.
Yeah,
would have
yeah,
would have been nuts. But needless to say, I think Tennessee takes care of business against Vanderbilt.
yeah. I'm leaning towards that way as well. So Vanderbilt hasn't won in Knoxville in like 17 years, so it's been a
And
while.
I don't think that they start this year.
Yep, I'm with you. But interesting college football playoff rankings. We've got some interesting games this week coming up as well, and some games that are really going to impact that. So
Oh yeah, and it's cool to see. I mean, the G5 race is going to get interesting too, because you got North Texas in the mix. We saw Tulane get back in, and
yeah, it's
so
big Tulane's ranked because that shows exactly where the committee thinks they are. So
Tulane, I mean, Tulane has a loss to Ole Miss, and so that's something that a lot of these G5 teams haven't seen, is a team like that, and so I think that they're a little easier on them for that loss than they are some of the losses that these other teams have faced, like your Memphis of the world, who have
they
UAB.
and they got an Arkansas win, but Arkansas isn't like
Arkansas. Little side note before we predict Oregon USC. I, as an Alabama fan, playing Arkansas would low key terrify me because of Taylor Green.
Arkansas would turn the ball over too many times.
They would eventually shoot themselves in the foot. Like, it would be a heartbreak Hodgson again. But that guy, having to play that guy for a full afternoon would be a
Oh,
blow.
it'd be pretty obnoxious, 1,000%.
He's he doesn't get talked about. I just want to shout out Taylor Green. He doesn't get talked about enough because his team loses a lot. There's been a lot of turmoil there. But he does turn the ball over a decent bit. But his upside is definitely something to consider.
Agreed. Especially, I think in the league.
Because you got to give context to the fact that a lot of it's not on him either. Just given his situation.
Agreed. Well, you want to hop into these game predictions?
Yeah, let's go to the Big Ten. Or you want to start with that one, or start with BYU?
Let's start with BYU.
Yeah, we'll build the hype for that. All right. So we got BYU going to Cincinnati. This is Saturday night. This is one of the higher profile games that we've seen in Cincinnati these past 5 years, excluding the 2021 dream season for the Bearcats. This game reminds me a lot of BYU and Arizona State last year. The timing of it, the implications, because it is likely that, because of how things shook out with BYU and Utah, it is likely that, I mean, well, this is huge for Utah here,
Yeah, yeah,
because
massive.
it if how is it how does it play out?
If BYU loses to Cincinnati and Utah wins out, I'm pretty positive that Utah gets in with the head-to-head over BYU. It it
Yes, that's
it
yes.
it depends on. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that they somehow get in.
My mind melted for a second, but yeah, because that would, because all I have to worry about is taking BYU out, so I don't have to worry
Right.
about.
Right. They'd have three Big 10 or Big 12 losses.
Yes. Wow, it's crazy what this is coming down to. I mean, it's just then
It's the
Texas
nature of
a lot.
new college football.
Oh yeah, these Big 12 and ACC races are just getting more and more enthralling by the year. But I look at this game right here, and since Cincinnati caught my eye week one when they battled Nebraska as closely as they did. I mean, Brennan Sorsby kind of stood out. I was like, the dual threat quarterback. Right from he's from right near. He's from up by Denton, and so
Yeah.
he's a local guy. He's had a very up and down season, but in Cincinnati's losses, they've allowed a lot of yards. No, you saw that against Utah, and so if that's a big focal point of attention Saturday is going to be L.J. Martin and the BYU rushing attack, because if they get that downhill rushing attack going, I think it's going to be a long evening for Cincinnati, regardless of what the weather's like, regardless how anything else goes.
Yeah. Well, for me, BYU and Cincinnati are both teams that have been kind of teetering off towards the end of the year. Cincinnati suffered a 30-24 loss to Arizona just last week. I think that Utah game kind of broke their spirit a little bit. You know, they had one loss rolling in there. Game day was there, everything, and they just got smacked all over the field, man. But you look at it now and you look exactly where BYU is, and you say, we have a chance to play spoiler now. We have a chance to, continue a good season because Cincinnati, they've struggled the last couple of years. And this year with Sorsby and Caleb Goody and all the guys they've had. The first little short I did was on Cincinnati and
Yeah,
against that Nebraska game, and I thought that Cincinnati was going to play it close and Nebraska was going to win, but Cincinnati actually impressed me a lot more. They even had a drive where they were kind of driving down the field a little bit to potentially go tie or win the game, and I've been really impressed with Scott Satterfield. I always haven't believed in him, but it seems like he's got this program kind of heading in the right direction. Um, for me, I just think that the momentum's too much, and that BYU, you can play devil's advocate for Cincinnati wanting to play spoiler. BYU knows what this game means, and for me, I just think BYU's gonna, kind of outmatch Cincinnati in a way physically, and I think they're gonna beat them in BYU form and fashion, which is we're gonna run the ball and we're gonna stop your run and we're gonna make you one dimensional, and I think BYU escapes. I think they escape, and that's the key word. I think Cincinnati could be winning this game up until the fourth quarter for a control the ball for a long time, and I'm going to go BYU in a low scoring game, 20-17.
that's crazy that you say that as your score prediction, because mine is literally 21-17.
Yeah, it just seems that that on the road, and BYU, man, they've struggled a lot recently, but I feel like BYU is more of a week to week team, if anything. Like you never really know what version of BYU you're going to get, and we'll find out pretty quickly what version. But maybe that we'll see. Maybe they choke like they did last year and lose a game they're not supposed to. So we'll see.
BYU is one of those teams, because of talent, because of coaching, and the fact that they don't make dumb mental errors a lot unless they're playing Texas Tech.
Yeah,
I like them in spots like this. BYU, even kind of the same way as Utah, concerns me when you go up against teams like Texas Tech,
yeah,
because Texas Tech is just a little different. I mean,
yeah.
this is the best Big 12 team I've seen since we've gotten this new version. There's nothing like that last year. I think they're even better than Arizona State was last year. Like this,
I agree.
that team,
They are.
at the bottom, could absolutely beat an SEC team. Could absolutely beat a Big 10 team in the playoff. I could see them in the Final Four, and so and that's a buzzsaw game to me. To where if BYU goes back to Arlington, I think you get the same result, if not worse.
Yeah,
With the
yeah,
way I mean, the amount of alumni we have around here for Tech. But in this spot, even with it being up in Cincinnati, it feels like a game that's engineered for BYU, and they're going to capitalize on that.
I'm with you 100%.
All right, let's go over to the other crazy conference right now, where there's just a lot of jibber jabber going on, if you will. We've got Georgia Tech and we've got Pitt, and so Pat Narduzzi said last week that he doesn't care if he loses that Notre Dame game 109-0. It's a non-con. This is where he's investing all of his energy. So kind of like you were saying when we were talking about this game off the air, were they saving all their energy for this?
Yeah.
Or are they really? Because we've also seen Pitt slope off late in the season as well. I mean, we saw that last year. I think they were 7-2 at one point, finished 7-6. Like they completely fell off a cliff. So that could also happen here as well. But I just think it's interesting them going into Atlanta.
Yeah. For me, this game all comes down to Haynes King. We saw last week Pitt just get absolutely obliterated on the ground by Jeremiah Love, and once that run game opened up, the floodgates opened, and it wasn't even close. And it once again, just like Cincinnati, is that going to crush their spirits? Because game day was there for the first time in 20 years, and they welcomed McAfee home, and they had like a big, almost like parade. It was like a parade. Oh, Pitt might get this marquee win we've been looking for a long time. And once again, those floodgates just open. Georgia Tech, they've been escaping by the skin of their teeth. 1-9 Boston College took them to the brink of death, and it's they've let me Georgia Tech's like they remind me of the Minnesota Vikings a few years ago, where they just won as many. They were like 11-0 in one possession games, and they were pulling out all these wins that they shouldn't have. For Haynes King is the best player on the field. Pitt starting a true freshman quarterback. I think Georgia Tech's gonna kind of manhandle them. I was leaning Pitt for a little bit. I'm gonna hop off the crazy train, and I think Pitt is gonna try everything possible. Triple passes, reverses, end arounds, everything. But I think Georgia Tech is more reliable, and I trust Haynes King's rushing ability more than I trust whatever the hell Pitt's cooking up, because we have no idea what they're cooking up. But I'm going to go Georgia Tech in a higher scoring game here. I'm going to go Georgia Tech wins 35-24.
That's similar to one thing too. I see Georgia Tech in the 30s. I've got them. I've got Georgia Tech winning 38-23. It's the line that Vegas has in this one kind of surprised me a little bit. It's Georgia Tech minus 2.5. I was expecting that at least 4.5, maybe 5.
And I think that part of it just comes from Georgia Tech in recent weeks. Obviously, the loss to NC State, the escape route against Boston College, and even earlier in the year, the whatever escape they had against Wake Forest on that 2-point conversion. So I'll tell you this though. They need this game badly, because we've seen what Notre Dame just had, how the committee valued that win over Pitt last week. So it'll be interesting to see if the committee gives Georgia Tech that same respect for a win over Pitt that they just gave Notre Dame.
I had a excuse me, pardon me. I had a theory, and I'm gonna make a video about it at some point. But I had a theory a few weeks ago about designating this week right here for just randomized matchups that people want to see, that you schedule 2 weeks before this week comes. And so what I mean when I say that is like Alabama, Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Ohio State, Indiana. I would like to see just Georgia Tech and Miami duke it out. I just want to know. I just want to know who's the best team in the ACC. I think it's one of those two.
I like that. I like that too, because maybe make it optional for teams. You can keep the team you originally scheduled. Now I know that this is just all fantasy, anyways. But Georgia Tech and Miami could both use a win against each other, and so I don't think either of them would decline that game.
And that's that's what I'm saying. It's hard to get a gauge on some of these teams, and some of these teams. I mean, it's almost like when you're late in the semester in high school or college, and you need some bonus points.
Yeah,
That's like what this weekend would be. Is like that extra credit opportunity, right? If you're Miami and you get a win over Georgia Tech, that's another feather in your cap.
absolutely.
So maybe the committee looks at you differently. I'm sorry. I know I made a video last week about the ACC kind of being wide open with chaos and everything mathematically the way that it was. But if we're being perfectly honest here, perfectly direct and honest, I just don't think that there's any way that Virginia or SMU or teams like that are like among the top in this in this conference. It's the or in the case of Duke last week before they lost to Virginia. I just don't think there's any way in hell that those teams are as good as Miami and Georgia Tech. And if you were to see them play, I think you'd find out very quickly.
Yeah,
But that's just me, and so that's why I would like to see that happen this weekend. Is to just put a purple light on a lot of things that we kind of know are true, but people push against with arguments just because we haven't seen it play out. So it would be a fascinating thing to see.
I'm with you right there. I mean, I'd love to see it. Now, I don't think a lot of the big conferences. I don't think the SEC or Big Ten would participate in that, but I do think that it could benefit the ACC and the Big 12.
I think they would chomp at the bit the opportunity. It would be tougher to persuade the other two just because the
We know how
resume.
they.
You don't
Yeah,
want to fuck Ohio State's resume up. You don't want to fuck Georgia's resume up. So I get that.
we know how the SEC and the Big 12 operate, or the Big 10 operate.
Oh, they're very very protective, and they should be honestly.
Very,
With the
they're.
way that the evaluates them, they should be.
I say protective. You say protective. I say stingy.
That's a good word too. Hey, the reason why I don't get mad at them for doing it is because of the discussion we had earlier with Notre Dame. You want to play
Yeah,
that game, well, you're not going to try to fuck me over. I get why they're a little protective, a little stingy with that, if you will. If you're going to have Notre Dame in the same conversation, I think it's fair.
I agree.
All right. We made our predictions there. We are both going with Georgia Tech. We have two of the same here. Let's find out if we have three of the same going in this weekend. And just a little announcement that this is a light week, just because it's not as combustible of a weekend as the following one is going to be. So
We might have a rivalry week bonanza.
next week's show may run longer. Like it may be possibly a 90-minute show. There may be quite a few games we have in there next week.
Yeah,
So
we'll
we're doing a
cover
little
whatever
load
we
management.
need. We'll cover whatever we need next week.
Yeah, well, next week is going to be an empty the tank kind of week. I mean, it's the regular season grand finale, so I'm here for it. But we're putting a little load management this week. You're not quite Kawhi sitting out. We won't make you fly out to LA just to have your son not to be able to see his favorite player. But we'll still come on. But it's we're pulling the reins in a little bit.
Speaking of which, LeBron is back tonight for his 23rd year. And guess what? He's still a complainer, and Boston still ran him out of Cleveland.
That they did. Caps off to that. I stand by that too. And plus, his fan base is one of the cultiest I've ever seen.
Yeah, and it picks up more members every single day.
Well, speaking of a cult fan base, I can't even say cult fan base for Oregon. They're just some
Good
some
fit.
some of them are just bananas.
They're Phil Knight proteges.
But shout out to my guy Dominic, Duck Zone 503. I'm having him on tomorrow night. We're gonna be talking about this game we're having going on, and so.
Hey, I've never had a problem with Oregon. So
Oregon. I don't know if I've ever said this on the show before, but Oregon was my first love before Alabama.
wow. I think
because
you told me that. I don't know if you've said it on the show though.
yeah, they were my first love. USC was never my love though, and they never will be. Um, but still, even with that said, I don't know about you, but I think we touched on it a little bit earlier. Yeah, USC has really impressed me this season because we had a preview on them this summer, and neither you nor I were like super high on them just
No.
because we were thinking that there were points in this team where they lack some depth. But there's been multiple times this year where they have just found a way, and bigger, higher profile games, the Nebraska game being one. I
Yeah.
mean, they just seem to find a way to win. And Jordan Mailata, or Jay Mailata, at the quarterback position. I, I thought he was going to be decent this year. He's been in the conversation of top 5 or even top 3 quarterbacks in college football. Statistically, everything. So when you're bringing a guy like that into Austin Stadium, we saw what Indiana was able to do with Mendoza. This game reminds me a lot of that game, and in some ways, you've got a supercharged team in USC that I think to a certain degree is being overlooked,
Yeah.
looking to go into Austin and make a statement. And Oregon, to me, unless they're playing Minnesota or unless they're playing Wisconsin or Rutgers or somebody, they feel a little bit more vulnerable than they did last year.
They've been
So,
dicey.
I wouldn't dismiss USC being able to go in here and do their thing, but let me hear what you have to say.
For me, you know, I think I was very negative on USC. I was even saying that maybe after this year, Lincoln Riley would be on the hot seat at USC. But one thing I always did mention about USC that I actually thought, maybe was a big plus for them that they haven't had this year is some upperclassmen on the defensive side of the ball. Um, Specifically, more of the back of the defensive, secondary and the linebackers. Um, I have a hard time, picking USC every week because kind of similar to BYU, they're a very week by week team. And I'll say this about USC from that game against Michigan State, where they gave up 30 points to a really benign offense to where they are now. The defense has really come along. Oregon is a team where I expected them to be more of an offensively dominant team this year. Dante Moore, obviously, DeCorian Moore, Sadiq, back that whatever I forget what the running back's name is. Davidson had 2 touchdowns last week. Um, I thought they were going to be really, Malik Benson, the former Alabama player.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to be a lot more, prolif. Oh my gosh, I cannot speak today. Anyways, I thought they'd be better on offense, but recently it seems that they're just a little clunky. I think against Iowa they really showed that, and they were lucky to get out of there with a win. Um, and but for me, playing in Autzen Stadium, this isn't going to be the typical Pac-12 matchup that we've seen with these two teams where it's 45-42 and it comes down to who has the ball left. In Autzen, we compared it to the Cameron Indoor of college football. And right here, you know what? I think it's just a good spot to pick the USC Trojans to go on the road and beat the Oregon Ducks in their own building. And I think it should be a low-scoring game. I'm going to go 24-20 USC. Give me Maeva. Give me Lincoln Riley. Give me the Trojans. Give me that improved defense for USC. And we're going to pick the boys from SoCal in honor of LeBron's 23rd season.
Man, the shakeup that's going to take place if this happens, because then it's going to come down to how
Oregon plays a little bit of hot potato with the ball now. They can turn it over.
they can turn it over. They struggle late in the game. We've
Yeah.
seen that. I've seen a lot of fourth quarters with them where the plane really just doesn't leave the runway.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
You think that they're going to just put the nail in the coffin, and even against Iowa.
I mean, they had that masterful drive, but they let Iowa score in that last possession, and so they kind of put themselves in that position. And so I feel like USC can absolutely expose some of Oregon's vulnerabilities and we got to talk a little bit about injuries when it comes to Oregon's wide receiver depth too, because both DeCorian Moore and Gary Bryant Jr. are battling injuries going into this
Yep.
game. Not
Yep.
sure if they're playing or not, and that is a huge story to track, and so I feel like we should both get like one mulligan for a game every year, and this kind of feels like it for me.
Can I take mine on Illinois beating Ohio State?
Yes.
Yeah, all right. Well, that's where I'm using mine.
It was batshit crazy, but you know what? Take it. It wasn't even close. So just take a mulligan. It's fine.
Sometimes I forget what I even say.
Look, me too. And I could have used mine for Alabama, Florida State too, to bring back that memory, which sucked. But I think I'm going to use it for this one instead when it comes to the wide receiver depth. And so I'm with you, lower scoring. Oregon is favored by 9.5 points right now, which I think that you should shave some off of that and add some to the Georgia Tech Pitt. I think they should both be around 5.5.
Yeah.
Add a little more to that and subtract some from this, just because I think they're overvaluing Oregon a little bit. But I like the Ducks to squeak it out. As far as the plot of this game, I could see this being very much like a USC Notre Dame, where USC was in it for a while, and I thought for a good minute they were going to pull it off. And then Notre Dame just pulled away. I think Oregon can pull it away last minute with some heroics like they did against Iowa a few weeks ago. I expect this one to be dramatic. I like Oregon 27-21. It's hard for me to envision this team losing 2 games at Austin Stadium this year.
Me too.
But again, we know Oregon has some vulnerabilities, so just going to throw that out there.
I'm with you there, and this is a game where in a week where there's not a lot of big games going on, all eyes will be on both these teams, and USC, they're kind of just creeping their way up in the playoff rankings. They're kind of just hanging around, and we'll see if they can get that marquee win that they really haven't been able to get under Lincoln Riley. So we'll see.
Hey, like we said, them and Michigan are just hanging around, ready to make this thing absolute hell. And so, man, if USC can pull this off, and then you get Michigan to pull it off again over Ohio State, which they own Ohio State recently, and that game's in Ann Arbor this year. So this story has been chaotic so far, but I think we can put a bookmark in it too, because I think it's also very, very, very far from being finished. And we could have some unexpected Big Ten chaos that none of us could have foreseen happening at this time of year. I was expecting this to be a 4-loss USC team at this point, and a potentially undefeated Oregon team.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, here we are.
I'll tell you this, I was fully expecting this to be an undefeated Oregon team, so.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they're going to beat Penn State, and never saw the Indiana thing coming, and USC's lost less games than I expected them to. So, I mean, hey, we need something this weekend. So, fingers crossed this will be our banger.
That's right.
Well, I think that's all that we have for tonight. We had our rankings reveal, picked 3 games. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. But like we said, stay tuned for next Tuesday, because it's going to be a banger of a game. Bama Auburn, banger of a show. Ohio State, Michigan. Ooh, we got Drew over here. Come on, buddy. We got Alabama and Auburn. We may even do Texas Tech, West Virginia. Who knows?
I know. We got A&M. We got some good Friday games. We got the Egg Bowl. Got A&M, Texas.
Egg Bowl next week. I mean, we're absolutely doing that one. You want to fight? You want to go? You want to tussle? I'll tussle. He likes to fight me. Look at him. Yep. Let me finish. Yeah, he likes to fight me. Feisty little shit he is.
That's how they all are.
No, especially at 1 year old, they are full of piss and vinegar.
That's right.
My guy Alex Todorov just commented the Egg Bowl will be good. The Egg Bowl is going to be a classic. I think that's going to be an absolute heart attack, and wrapped in bacon for Ole Miss fans.
Yeah, a lot of
Give everything up.
extracurriculars going on too.
Yeah, given the whole Lane Kiffin thing, that's just yeah, that's that game is just as spooky as the Iron Bowl.
Yep.
Well, thank you all for watching, and thank you, Luke, for coming on.
Always a pleasure. We're gonna finish this thing strong, and gotta shit, man. Used to be we'd only have a few more weeks, but now we've got a damn near month and a half.
This is a marathon. We are just getting started here. We are just getting rolling with this show. Oh, we have one question before we go. Um, do you think Lane Kiffin could go to Florida?
For me, I think that Florida is a little bit less likely than LSU, simply because I think Florida is a tougher job to kind of rebuild. If you look back historically, outside of a couple head coaches that Florida's had, they're really not that great historically, and they've been kind of down for a decade now. At LSU, you have nobody to battle in Louisiana for the recruiting. In Florida, you've got Miami, you've got Florida State, you even got USF that's been recruiting pretty well recently. At LSU, it's really just LSU, and Louisiana is a hot spot for talent. You can really manage your way over to Texas as well. So for me, I think it's definitely a possibility. It's definitely in the top three. Um, I'd personally rank them third out of the options of LSU staying at Ole Miss in Florida.
I personally think staying at Ole Miss is his best bet. I've hammered on it for years as he's tried to get poached every year. I always kind of hammer down on him staying at Ole Miss because there's some situations I don't think it gets much better than, and Ole Miss is one of them. I mean, Oxford's a great town. He expectations aren't too high. He's building something special.
Yeah,
I love Mississippi myself, and so and there's a little bias there. But at LSU, he kind of has that blue ocean when it comes to recruiting, like you're saying, having the whole state, having Texas as a border state, being near Florida, being near
yeah,
Alabama, Mississippi. Like a lot of things you can control there. Maybe kind of an internal clusterfuck right now, just with the athletic
yeah.
department as it is. That's my concern with that.
But
Um,
Florida's athletic department, their AD's on thin ice as well. So
yeah,
a name I'd look for at Florida is Alex Golish. I think that's kind of one guy that I'm really kind of keying in. Even though I think they're going to go for more of a splash hire, I'm not sure if there really is that splash hire out there, and Golish is already in the state. So I could see that's kind of the name I'm looking at.
yeah, I could see Golish for Florida, and I think that if LSU goes the G5 route too, I could see them possibly getting Summerall from.
Yes, Summerall's definitely up there as well.
But both of them have a lot of bargaining power just because
I,
of who they
I
are
yeah,
location.
I'd go to answer your question. I'd go power rankings right now. Stays at Ole Miss, LSU, and then Florida.
Honestly, mine are probably the same because I also think that LSU is going to make a more compelling push too. So I think that they're just going to be a little bit more aggressive.
Yep.
Well, thank you everyone for coming on. Have a great day, and we'll see you all next Tuesday for a hell of a show.
Hey, great question by the way too.
What's that?
I said that was a great question too.
That was yes.
Keep
Thank
them
you.
coming. If y'all have any questions ever, keep them coming.
Oh, absolutely. Any questions, please drop them in the comments below. But next week is gonna be a hell of a show. So we'll see
Yeah.
all of y'all there.
Get a Red Bull.
Oh yeah, it's time to turn up. Y'all have a good night.